this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 81 of the Sophie Art podcast, which is a little podcast that I do about the art and things. And this one today is about the art. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try something for the first time, and I'll see how it goes. If it works out alright, I'll probably do this a few times each month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through an issue of my Character Design Quarterly magazine, which is a magazine all about character design by 3D Total Publishing. I've done loads of videos of these magazines on my YouTube at youtube.com/SophieLawson. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through one of the articles and just talk about the article. So the one I'm going to go through today is called Capturing a Character's Essence, and it's with the artist Simone Grünewald. Hopefully I said that right. I'll put links to everything in the show notes. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/SophieLawson, you'll be able to see the article, all the sketches and stuff. But I'm going to do my absolute best to make it more of an audio, so it's okay without it. And I've taken some notes as I've been working, because what I did yesterday was I sat down and went through this article. It's actually the second time I've gone through it, and it's one of my favourite articles so far. Especially, it's my favourite from the first issue of Character Design Quarterly, because what it's all about is, what she does in the article is she takes a photograph of somebody, and then she talks through the process of turning that photo and that person into a character, which I think is amazing. And so basically that's what it's going to be about today. What is the little quote? I've got a little inspirational quote. I've got a little inspirational quote also from Simone. And like I said, I'll put links in the show notes to her website. Basically, I think that is it, really. You can find show notes at sophielawson.com. The website is a bit of a mess at the minute still. It's going to take ages to fix it, but getting there slowly. But you can find the podcast on there and everything. But enough waffle. Little Clive the chicken. I think he's a new one. I'm not sure. Little hand puppet, Clive the chicken. He looks quite funny, that one. Ding ding. Dennis is sleeping having a little rest today. So little Clive the chicken has sounded the gong, which means it is time for this week's episode. So let's get into this magazine and talk about capturing a character's essence. Right, so we're going to go into the article now, and if you can let me know if you enjoy this one, because like I say, I'll do more of them if it's something that's quite good. But I'll be evolving it as I go along, so things that don't quite work, I'll keep making it better. But the reason I'm doing this is because it's kind of like, it's a way of me learning reading these articles and learning, and also doing the podcast. So it kind of like, I can do two things at once, which is quite fun. But I love this article. So the article is called Capturing a Character's Essence with Simone Grünewald. I'm going to read a little sort of introduction thing and just talking about the article. So it says, in this article I will show you how to stylize real people for a character design. We will start off with several loose studies of the subject in a sketchbook using coloured pencils by colour arrays. From there I will then scan all the sketches and demonstrate how to play around with the scans in Photoshop. When I've settled on a final idea, I will then paint on top of the original thumbnail to create the final design. So I took some little notes yesterday. I'll just quickly go over my notes and some of the things I've noticed. So the way the article flows is she starts out by analysing the subject, which is all to do with, she gathers like a load of reference images. She then does a load of little sketches where she first starts with the head, which I thought was quite cool. So she starts out doing little tiny sketches of the head and then the body. So it's quite interesting seeing how people work, because you realise that she obviously thinks the head is super important, and she takes it separately. And I'd never done that. I would have done it all together. So, like I say, when you're reading articles like this, you're always learning stuff, which is fun. And then she's always thinking about shapes. I like that as well, because I love shapes. So she does the reference, sketches, character composition, thinking about being expressive, refining ideas. She's not afraid to abandon any, which is cool. Then she plays around with colour, sketches a final design, and then she does a little bit of fine-tuning. What I love about this was, as she's going through it, she's looking at the person she's drawing, which is one of her friends called Olga, and she's like picking out words. So she's constantly thinking about words to describe the person, and as she's like sketching, she's thinking about these words. It goes back into something Bert Dodgson said in Keys to Drawing. He said, as you're drawing, if you want to draw something fluffy, for instance, if you keep repeating in your head fluffy, somehow it makes your hand draw fluffy. It's quite fun. So she's kind of doing that. Like some of the words she says is voluptuous, femininity, and then something else she also does is that was really good. Yeah, I'm going to get into the article now, but she's always asking, what is it about Olga that stands out? She's basically finding her essence. She's always thinking about finding her essence, which is really cool. So if you're watching on the video, you can see these little sketches. But what I love is she's done 2, 4, 6. She's done 6 little just sketches of Olga's head, and they're in little coloured pencils, which I love. I love it when artists sketch in coloured pencils. But what it is each of these little sketches are different. So they all look like different people, but they don't. You can tell it's the same person, but yet somehow they also look different. Like some of them have smaller eyes, some of them have bigger eyes. So already, even in her sketches, she is somehow capturing the essence of Olga, which I think is amazing. But she starts out by analysing the subject, and what she does is she collects a load of photographs of, like, reference photos of Olga. So, and I love this because as you're going through the article, you realise that the first phase, which is gathering the reference, isn't necessarily just the first one. So like later on down the line, she's done a bit of sketching and she's got quite a long way through the process. She suddenly decides to go back to gathering reference. So it's almost like each of these stages isn't necessarily, like, it doesn't start and finish. It's all constantly overlapping each other, which I really enjoyed that. And you also get the impression that nothing is ever wasted. It's something I really sort of like. I believe that. I sometimes, like the website, for instance, my website broke. You could think, well, that was 6 years wasted, but it's not, because you'll create a new website and all that stuff you've done will find a way into the new one. So like nothing is ever wasted. And all these little sketches as well, what she does later on is she starts combining bits of these sketches. So the final sketch that she does isn't the final sketch she chooses, it's the final sketch she chooses with bits of the other sketches. So it's kind of cool. It goes into something that I learned at svslearn.com. One of their courses is called, I think it was the Creative Composition course, which is all about composing a scene. And one of the main things about that is doing little thumbnails. Little thumbnails. Yeah, cute little thumbnails. Tiny little thumbnails. They say to do them super small because then you can't put details in. But what they say is keep doing thumbnails. So this is one of my little problems at the minute. With Inktober, which is I'm creating like little Sophie characters, I'm using the thumbnail thing. So I'm doing little thumbnails of each day's drawing, but I will do a thumbnail, and sometimes I'll just pick the first one and I won't do any more. But in that course, svslearn.com, they say keep doing thumbnails, because it's when you think you've got the one you want, that's when you actually start playing around. And it's when you start playing around with ideas that you're going to find something that you didn't know you had inside of you. And this is something in here. Sometimes you do go back to the first thumbnail, but again, nothing's ever wasted, because all those other thumbnails, somehow stuff from each one will find a way into your finished drawing. And this is something I've noticed in this article. A lot of the stuff I'm learning at SBS Learn, I kind of can relate to it in this little article. But when she's got the reference images, these are amazing. If you can see the images on the video, 3 little images of Olga. Again, they're kind of different, but they're all the same. Really, I absolutely love Simone Grünewald, an amazing artist. Since when I first flicked through this magazine, which was months ago, after I did that little video, I went on to Instagram and started following her, and she is an amazing artist. Yeah, she's very good at capturing the essence of characters. But what she was going to do was, she was going to capture the essence of Olga, but include her boyfriend. So then she was thinking about having the sketch be both of them together, and I'm so glad she didn't pick that in the end. She went with a design where Olga was on her own. I'm so glad she didn't pick the one with the bloke, because I think that would have overshadowed her. Yeah, so I'm really glad she didn't. But again, it's not wasted, because even in that little sketch you can sort of see, even that little sketch of Olga kind of relates to the final image she did, so it's kind of cool. The reason she thought about having the bloke in there, Olga's boyfriend, was because she thought it would create interesting shapes, but I feel like it ended up being quite distracting. And here she says something which relates to that thing about the thumbnail. She says, "It is better to keep working on ideas for a bit longer, as you may return to it later or be able to evolve it further." So it's that thing where when you think you've got the idea, just keep going, because you don't know what might come up. She then goes on to character compositions. Yeah, I love this. She's thinking all the time. She's thinking about what is it about Olga. She's constantly thinking, what is it about Olga? And she's putting that into the character all the way through, like the sketching, all the way through the design process. She's constantly asking, what is it about Olga? So on here she says, Olga is a social media persona. The taking of selfies seems very much a part of her character. So she started playing with the idea of having it be like a sketch around selfies. Again, I don't think that idea would have worked. Well, it could have worked, but the one she picked was just amazing. And what I love is, the one she picked isn't one of the ones she started out with. So in other words, she gathered a load of reference images. The one she settled on in the end, the photo that character design is based off of, she didn't actually even see that photo at the start. This is why I love the fact that when she felt like it wasn't working, she went back to finding reference. But like I said, everything she did before with all these other ones found a way into the final design. So it's quite cool how it works. She's then talking about, I love this as well. There's so much stuff in this that is amazing. It goes into that thing where I think you could read this article 1,000,000 times and keep learning. I highly recommend this article. It's in issue 1 of the Character Design Quarterly magazine. She talks about refining ideas. So she says, even though I like the last idea a lot, I am not quite ready to let the other 2 ideas go. I return to the initial idea of Olga and Kevin together and do a couple of tiny, very rough sketches to find poses with a better balance between them. Again, that is something she's constantly talking about as well, is balance. So when she's doing her sketches, she's thinking about balance, and you can see that in the final image, the character is, one side of the character is like blowing in the wind. It's a character, super happy face, beautiful little flowery floaty dress, standing on the beach in the water, and she's constantly thinking about the balance. She was thinking about the balance of the character with the background, the balance of the shapes of the characters. So she was thinking about the shapes of the hair with the shape of the dress. When she was going on to colour, she was thinking about the balance between the colour of the hair and the rest of. So it's constantly thinking about balance. And then when she did little sketches with the bloke and Olga, she was thinking about the balance between the two characters, and she was thinking about the shapes of things. But yeah, again, I think what happened was the balance went too far into the male, and it's sort of like the focus. You suddenly didn't know what the focus was. Was the focus Olga, or was I think the focus at that point became the relationship between the two characters, which isn't what it was about. It was about the essence of Olga. So here it says, abandoning ideas. She says, here I take my first sketch of the couple and finish them in Photoshop. I cut the image up and rearrange it, resizing and redrawing body parts to my liking to get them nicely proportioned and balanced. This is one of the things why I love working digitally, because you can play around with stuff, whereas when you're working traditionally, you have to keep redrawing stuff. With digital, you can like copy things, duplicate things, and really manipulate the shapes and stuff. What I think I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to end up probably being a traditional artist who uses digital to do things. Again, it goes into something that svslearn.com, they said. What they said to do was, these little thumbnails that you do, they always have beautiful... this is amazing. Capturing the essence of a character. When you do the thumbnail, you're quickly sketching little shapes. And I feel like it's the thumbnail that always captures the essence of the character more than the final drawing. So what they say on SVS Learn is, the more detail you add, the more of the essence and the more the feeling you're going to lose. So to try and retain the most amount of feeling and essence in the drawing, what they say to do is take your thumbnail, blow it up, and draw on top of it, so that the thumbnail is always underneath the sketch. Because that way, when you start adding the details, it's going to be on top of the feeling. Whereas if you keep redrawing, if you do a little thumbnail and think, I love that, and then you redraw that with like pencils, you're going to lose a bit of the feeling, because it's going to stiffen up a bit. So I really like that little tip, and she says it here. She says here about how she draws on top of her little sketch, and that's her way of keeping the essence. But you can still do that with traditional, because you can scan it into the computer and print it out and just draw on top. So she says here, the pose in the thumbnail is livelier, and if I decide to go with the new selfie idea, I will have to build the image over the thumbnail and redraw them. So what she does is she takes the thumbnail, draws on top of the thumbnail, so that she keeps the essence of it, but she can still change it, which is quite cool. There's a little bit here about playing with colours, and she says, I really like this. There's a nice little tip in here. She says, before really beginning the final image, I want to try out some colour. I love being able to work digitally on top of hand-drawn sketches. Painting on top of a sketch always feels a bit more organic to me, since there is a lot of dirt and texture captured in the scan. I use that texture and get more colour variation when colour picking. But she says about avoid painfully bright colour schemes. When picking a colour scheme, I find it is useful to keep the saturation in check by choosing one colour to be the most vivid, and a complementary colour to be far less saturated. In this case, I use deeply saturated reds against muted turquoise. And she says, if I saturate both equally, it would be a bit painful to the eyes. Again, it's like balance. She's got one colour super bright, and then it allows that to pop. She picked the hair because she had recognised during the early phases that one of the essences of Olga was her bright red hair. So when she comes to picking the colours, she makes the hair bright, because then that pops. Yeah, beautiful. She's got beautiful red hair. And the little character is an amazing character. I love this character. I feel like that character should have been on the cover of the magazine. It would have been a beautiful cover, that. She then talks about cleaning the design and defining shade. This is cool because in the article you can see she works with flat colours. She starts adding detail, and you see each phase of the character coming together. But what she does is, when she's got it all on the screen, she decides, you know what, that character's a bit too big, so she hides the character and she shrinks the character. Again, this is why working digitally is so good, because you can just easily change things like that. So what she's done is she's stepped back and she's seen that the shapes around the character, like the negative shapes, the background, it wasn't a nice shape, so she made the character smaller so that the shapes around the character were just as good as the shapes of the character. Again, like a balance thing, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, there's something amazing here. Capturing the essence of the character. It's the little things. Yeah, it's the little things that make life big, but it's the little things that make the character the character. So on this one, the reference image that she picks, Olga isn't wearing any jewellery, but in all the other reference images that Simone looked at, Olga was wearing jewellery, so she knew that jewellery was a big part of the essence of Olga. So what she did was, and I love this, she went through the other reference images and pulled out jewellery that would work with the character that she had drawn, but also it was Olga's jewellery, so she's keeping the essence of Olga by picking her jewellery. And again, it goes into that thing of nothing's ever wasted, because all those reference images which she didn't use, she now did use, because she pulled bits of jewellery from it. So I found that really, really amazing. And the thing is, that jewellery really does make the character more of a character. And she even talks about in here about, yeah, she says, I pick moons as a decorative symbol since she wears them a lot, but they also help to detach the character from this sunny landscape and add a bit of mystery. So she's said to herself, Olga is a bit mysterious, but she's also thinking about what shapes are going to work in this drawing. I love this. She's thinking about everything. Yeah, there's nothing in this drawing that she hasn't thought about. So the shape of the hair, she's thought about that, because if you look at the reference image, in the reference image, Olga's hair is going straight down. It's quite static and boring, really. But again, because Simone knows that Olga's hair is so much a big part of her character, in her final drawing or painting, she's made her hair like super wild. But the thing is, the shape of the hair sort of flows with the body. I love that. And then right at the end of this little article, she talks about minor changes and stuff. So what she does is, this is quite fascinating to look at. She's got her final image just before she makes little changes, and you can sort of compare it. So you can see that what she did is she squished the face, because what she said was, sometimes you need to take a step back from your image and analyse it. I realise that Olga has turned out a bit too cute and generic during the process of painting, with less character than she had in the sketches. Again, it goes back to that thing of, the more detail you add, you start losing the essence of it. I really wish there was a way to like do a gesture of a character and somehow make it highly detailed, but it's kind of like you can't. The gesture is always loose and flowing and feeling, and then the final bit is always struck like more stiffer. But what she says here is, she says, I revisit the sketches and alter the parts I find lacking, like the nose, eyes and mouth, and other minor things. The shape of the hair is easily altered with the warp tool, which I think is a great tool. So she's a little tip there about using the warp tool. That's how she got it lively. It's quite cool, that. Yeah, and you got like a balance on this character. One side of it is her hair and her dress blowing in the wind. The other side you got like a bag. She's wearing a little handbag, and that's flowing on the other way. So it just is an absolutely amazing little image, this. And she also talks about the things she changed. So what she also changed was her hand. She had it quite straight and stiff. In the final drawing, what she did was she curved the hand to be the same shape as the handbag. So again, it's the little things. She's just looking at everything, and what she's done is she's finding how all the shapes are flowing and relating to each other. Like I said, there's nothing that hasn't been thought about in this. I really love it. That's basically it, really. It's just, the main thing I took away from it was, to capture the essence of a character, you have to first study the character by collecting lots of reference images, study the character and like write down words that you think express that character. But it's the little things like the jewellery, like the hair, yeah, like the sort of clothes that she wears. She's also got like a little, what's it called, piercing on her lip. It's amazing. So what I learnt really is you've got to analyse and study the character. Before you even start drawing, you really need to know the character. And then when you start sketching, you're sort of sketching from the reference, but also using all these words that you've sort of captured in your head and stuff. But what she also talked about was, when she sits down to do her sketching, she puts all the reference around the screen, which I thought was quite cool. So she's surrounding herself with Olga. So yeah, she's like pretty much putting herself 100% into Olga, which I thought was cool. I also loved how she would take some designs quite a long way down, but if it wasn't feeling right, she wasn't afraid to go right back to the beginning and start again. And I loved that. I thought that was really cool. I love the way Simone looks at shapes, which I thought was really cool. And again, even right to the very end, constantly changing things, which I thought was cool. Yeah, I got the sense that she was going in and out, looking at things close up, and then zooming out, seeing how the thing worked together. But I think the main thing about this is, if you look at the reference image, compare it to the character that she created. The character that she created is so much like the reference photo, but yet at the same time, it's completely different. And what she has done is captured the essence. It's absolutely beautiful. I hope you enjoyed that. I really love that article. I think it's just my favourite article, and it's one of these things that you can read. You're going to be able to read it so many times, and I don't think you're ever going to I think you're going to keep getting information out of it. So it's really, really good. I hope you enjoyed that. And basically that is it, really. So all that's left to do is this week's inspirational quote. Actually, there is something else. Next week's episode is an About the Things episode, and it's either going to be, I haven't quite decided yet, it's either going to be something themed around Halloween, because next week is Halloween, so I might tell a little scary story or something, or the About the Things episode, because on the About the Things, which is the final episode of each month, I can talk about whatever I want. So I might talk about, it's quite personal, but it's really interesting and fascinating. So it's about gender reassignment surgery, which is basically where they chop off the willy. They don't chop it off, they invert the willy and create a fanny. Funny, I can't wait to talk about that, because that's going to be quite a fun one, I think. So that might be next week's, just talking about how I'm feeling about potentially getting rid of the willy and getting a fanny. I love that word, fanny. Funny fanny. Yes. So I think that will be next week's episode. It's going to be about the transitioning things. So this week's inspirational quote goes to Simone Grünewald. I'm so sorry if I'm messing that name up. It's a very hard name for me to pronounce. Simone. So the quote is, "Kill your darlings. If the base is not quite right, all the work you do on top will not work, no matter how pretty you try to make it." Yep, it's all about the foundations. This is what goes into what I said about the gesture drawing. I feel like the gesture is the most important thing. If the foundation isn't right, the house crumbles. It's the same with the drawings. Kill your darlings. If the base is not quite right, all the work you do on top will not work, no matter how pretty you try to make it. Simone Grünewald. I like that. I like that.